What if I told you this morning that God was into heavy metal? You know, I always like to do things a little bit different, as y'all know. And if you will, turn with me to 2 Kings this morning, chapter 6. And I will prove to you this morning that God is into heavy metal. Not what we think of, but have you ever thought about situations in your life and you thought about how minor those issues are, or how little that they seem to everybody else around you, and you wonder, why would I bother God with such minuscule problems? My problems shouldn't bother God. I shouldn't give God these little bitty problems of mine. I should just handle them and be done. And this morning, as we read this, it's 2 Kings chapter 6. And it begins there at verse 1, and it says, "And the sons of the prophets said to Elijah, 'See now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell.' And he answered, 'Go.' So he went with them, then one said, 'Please consent to go with your servants.' And he answered, 'I will go.' So he went with them, and when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. And he cried out and said, 'Alas, master, what? For it was borrowed.' And the man of God said, 'Where did it fall?' And he showed him the place. So he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, 'Pick it up for yourself.' So he reached out his hand and took it." Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for your words. But most of all, again, we ask you, Lord, to help us to grasp the nature of the words this morning, the message that you would have us to hear, Lord. Lord, may our hearts and our minds be open to you this morning in a way that you can just minister to us. And I mean, starting right here in the pulpit and going down through the pews, may each and every one get a message from this morning, Lord, that will just bless our hearts, that we can take with us and that we can share with others, that Lord, we know that you care. Lord, I ask you right now to hide me behind the cross, and Lord, may it be your words spoken through me and not my words spoken. And I pray this in your most precious name. Amen. You know, the construction project here come to an end, come to a screeching halt. Since they didn't have flashlights and sonars back then, this guy was in trouble. This guy had a problem, but it was a minor problem. It was not, should he have messed with the prophet over this minor problem? Should he have bothered God even with something so minuscule? But knowing the expensive iron was borrowed, the young prophet cried out for Elijah for help. You know, the prophet could have looked at him and said, "That's not my problem. You borrowed it. You take care of it. I advise you to roll your pants legs up and jump in." But instead, the prophet begins to listen to the younger prophet. He begins to show concerns about a problem that's not even his. See, the wise prophet threw a stick into the water where the axe head was. You know, y'all would think it was kind of awkward if you went and told somebody your ship went down in a certain spot of the ocean and they went out and cut a log and throwed it off in the ocean, wouldn't you? You'd think, well, what's he doing, marking the spot? But he cuts the stick off and he throws it in, and immediately the heavy iron blade floated to the top, defying all laws of physics, and proving that nothing, this is the part I love the most, proving nothing is impossible for God. Scientists have tried to prove for years that God doesn't exist, and God continues to take and bend the law of physics to fit his own perspective, and the scientists are still going around scratching their heads trying to figure out why certain things take place that physically should not be able to happen. People go into centers and they get checked out and they find cancer, they find big clumps of cancer, and people go to begin to pray for them, and they pray for them for weeks. They go back for the test again, and the doctors scratch their head and go, I know it was there. It couldn't have just disappeared. Cancer don't just vanish. They can't figure it out. You know why they can't figure it out? Because they don't know what we know. Nothing is impossible for God. You know, we're so caught up in our world today. We as human beings have a problem. The problem is we always tell our problems, or we always tell God how big our problems are in the world, where we should be telling our problems how big our God is. No matter how small the problem is, God wants to know about it. You know, Elijah's faith saved the day. Elijah could have said, what am I supposed to do? It's an iron head. They sink. Iron don't float. Buddy, you're going to have to pay for that piece. But his faith in God, he just cuts off a stick and throws it into the water. You know, we can gain so much from this story. Sometimes we look at stories and we think, what good does it have for us today? What does it share for us today? Let me tell you something. The Old Testament has such great meat for our hunger today, but sometimes we overlook the meat to get to the potatoes. We want something, we want to bypass the meat and potatoes part and get to the dessert, actually is what we're wanting. We bypass the Old Testament to get to the good part where Christ comes into the world. But you know, without the Old Testament, the New Testament couldn't have never happened. So we have to get back into this, and we need to realize that there is so much for us to gain from the stories of the Old Testament. It reminds us that God has power over the natural world. God has power over everything, and that He cares about the trivial details in our lives. It also shows us that He's willing to bail us out of the mess we create. You know, we have a real good time of creating problems. We have this thing going on inside of us that we can do it on our own. We don't need God. And then we have to go to God and say, we really messed up now. It's no longer a small situation we should have brought to you and let you have to begin with. Now we've created a big situation, and now you got your hands full. See, God has power over the natural world. There in verse 6, it tells us, and the man of God, where did it fall? And he showed him the place, so he cut off a stick and threw it in there and made the iron to float. Do you believe God is in control of the church? Do you believe God's in control of your life right now? Why is it then that we act like God doesn't exist sometimes in our churches? Do you trust Him? Do you trust God this morning with everything? Honestly, with everything? You trust Him with your job? You trust Him with your family? The major one here. You trust Him with your money? You know, more people have less trust in God with their finances, with their money situation, than they do with any other part of their life. They pray for their family, they give their family to God. They give their job to God. They'll give their own life to God, but when it comes down to giving God control of their money, He's not capable. He's not financially mindset to take care of our money. And you know what I found out? Years ago, I used to be that person that we hadn't got the money to tithe. We hadn't got the money to give to the church. We hadn't got the money to do this. We haven't got the money to do that. And I began to trust God, and we began to pay our tithes. We began to do what was necessary to give God His 10%. And we didn't give God, we are well past the point of giving God 10% of our bring home. We gave God 10% of our gross, because it says first fruit, doesn't say second fruit. Just because the government took out some before you get it does not mean that God doesn't get His part of the first part. But you know what? When I told the DS I would take this church, the DS talked to me for a little bit, and he said, "You do realize they can't pay you." And I looked at the DS and I patted my stomach. And I said, God hasn't starved me to death yet. I don't guess He's going to start now. And his exact words were, "You're a strange person." And you know what? I haven't went hungry yet. We give God what belongs to God, and God has not failed to feed me. God has not failed to take care of me. God has not failed to take care of this church. Are we growing? Maybe we're not growing in numbers every Sunday. Maybe we're not a church of 100. But you know what? A healthy church doesn't necessarily mean a church of big numbers. It means a church of big hearts. Hearts for God. You know, I sit down and I think about our different things in our life that we need to give to God, that we need to trust God in. And I'm not asking you to say that there's spots in your life that you need to trust God more in. But I'll say this, there's spots in my life that I need to trust God more in. I don't think there's a person alive that can say, "Oh, no, I've got all the faith I can ever have." If you truly believe God, if you truly believe in God, you know that's not possible. Because it says we must grow every day. We must be more and more like Him every day. So we see that God has power over the natural world, so He has power over us. He cares about the trivial details in our life. There in verse 5 it says, "But as one was cutting down the tree, the axe the iron axe he had fell into the water, and he cried out and said, Alas, master. He cried out. Y'all remember something similar to this, right? It's in the New Testament. I'll refresh your memory. This one knucklehead that was in a boat decided he wanted to get out and walk on water. He thought it was a good idea. I don't know why anybody would think it's a good idea. But he calls on Jesus. He said, Bid me come. Jesus said, Come on. He steps out of the boat. He begins to walk on water, but he takes his eyes off God and he begins to sink. And when he begins to sink, what happens? He cries out, Master. He cries out. And, even here it was a life at stake with Peter, but over in the New Testament it was something trivial, just an iron head. But this guy, he knew it was borrowed and it meant a lot to him that he got it back. Maybe it didn't mean a lot to us. We could have stood around and looked at it and said, It's just an axe. No matter how small you might think the things are in your life, give it to God. No matter how small, we need to trust God with it. We can watch God do great things in small situations. Great things in little things in our lives. Sometimes the things that we don't realize that are making a difference in other people's lives because they're so small in ours, people are watching. God can do great things with little things in our life. If we just trust God. He says nothing is too small or too great for me. I don't ever remember anywhere reading in the Bible where it says, Bring only your big problems to me, because I don't want to hear your small ones. He said, Have faith. And what you believe, asking in faith, I will do. How much faith do you have this morning in God? What kind of situations are going in your life right now? What kind of things are taking place in your life right now that you just need to say, God, I want you to take care of it. I've dealt with it. I can't deal with it. God, it's up to you at this point. I know you can do more than I ever could. I know you can move more mountains just by me believing than I can move by me trying to do it myself. The last thing here that I really like. I was told when I was young, if you get locked up, don't call me. You put yourself there, you deal with it. Not that they'd have done it. I could have called, they'd have been right there. But God's willing to bail us out of the messes we make. How many messes do we cause in our lives? How many situations in our life do we cause? Chances are it's close to 100%. Because chances are messes in your life are because of something you've done in the past or something you're doing. God said, call on Him in the good times and bad. Not just in the good. Not just in the bad. That's the problem with Christians today. They don't call on God until the world's falling down around them. They don't call on God. They don't see a need to call on God until it seems like all other things have been exhausted. God, He is in control of nature. He cares about your minor things in life, and He's willing to bail you out of those things that you caused. That's what I call a loving Father. That's what I call a great person. That's what I call God. I believe we as Nazarenes, I'm going to go a step further. I believe we as Christians have dropped our axe head a while ago. I don't even know exactly where it fell off the handle. But it seems as if we're trying to build God's house without the sharp edge of His genuine anointing. Seems like we're trying to build God's house on our own. You know, we've cheapened Pentecost. We've watered down the Word of God. We've dumbed down situations within the gospel to fit the people today because we don't want to hurt feelings. We don't want to cause problems. We've become politically correct in our world today to make other people happy. Answer me this question. How many people out here have done for you what Christ has done for you? Nobody. There's nobody laid their life down for you but Jesus Christ. You know, we sit down and we think about it. We have dumbed down the gospel of Jesus Christ. This morning, I want you to join with me. Let's ask God to restore the buried axe. I want you to join with me this morning. Let's ask God to lift His church, the axe. We are the axe. Let me explain something to you. As the church, we are the sharp edge of the gospel. If it wasn't for the church, others would never know about the gospel. So let's ask God this morning to raise the church back up out of that murky water, out of that drowning ocean of worldly things, back to the top. But you know what He says at the end? He says at the end, He told him, you reach out. Elijah didn't raise it up for him and then reach in and grab a hold of it. Elijah didn't have the faith and say, you know what? I'll throw the stick in, the thing will raise up, I'll get it for you. No, Elijah says, I have the faith that God can raise it up, but you have to take a hold of it. You have to put your hands on it. You have to get a grip on the gospel. You have to believe that God is willing, God is ready, and God is able to do what you have asked Him to do. Reach out and take it. Are you willing this morning to reach out and take it? I know we've got Gainesville Church here. They're looking for a pastor. Are you willing to reach out and take it? We're talking about our church here. We need people. We need people to come in who need God. Are we willing to reach out and take it? Are we really willing to trust God that much that we will just reach out? He said, there it is. Get it. The problem with us today is God shows us all the miracles in the world. But you know what we do? We just sit and look at it. We don't reach out and accept it. I know this is a hard thing for us to understand right now. But the world that we live in, Christians need to reach out and take it. God's given us the world right now. He's given us. He has laid it out on a platter for us right now. He said it is there for the taking. The problem is we are not reaching out. How do we reach out? Sometimes it's just through prayer. Sometimes it's through ministering to people. Sometimes it's just through the life you live. We've got to quit dumbing down the gospel. Let me tell you, day of Pentecost, people didn't get saved because they dumbed down the gospel. People didn't get saved because the disciples smiled at them and acted like nothing had happened. People began to get saved. 5,000, 3,000. There was different amounts saved after the day of Pentecost took place. But they got saved because the true gospel was being preached. And the true gospel was this. Fingers were being pointed and they said, Peter point blank says, you're the reason that Jesus was crucified. Sometimes it takes us getting our feelings hurt. Now, let me explain something to you on this message here today. Maybe it wasn't meant for you. I have sat this week and I have thought for the last couple of days, why is nothing happening in this church? Why are we not seeing growth in this church? Why are we not seeing people come to this church? What am I doing wrong? Then this message come to me. And God said, why are you doing anything at all? What were you called to do? And I had to answer, preach. And his answer was, yes, but are you trusting me with the rest? We want to see things happen immediately. We want to see things take place now. God didn't say it would take place immediately. He said, but I will give it to you. But you got to reach out and take it. We've got to do our part. We have to do our part. What is it that you've been called to do? What is it that you're supposed to reach out and take this morning? I ask y'all to stand with me this morning and close. Maybe there's something that you're struggling with this morning. And God says it's on the surface. Reach out and take it. The answer's there. All you've got to do is get a hold of it. Think about something that may be taking place in your life. Maybe it's just something that we think, I don't bother God with that. It's so minor. God didn't say it has to be big. He just said we have to be willing to give it to Him. Every head bowed this morning, your eyes closed. Maybe you're struggling with something. Maybe you're having an inside battle. I don't know what it is. But God knows what it is that you do. Ask yourself this morning, am I willing to give it to God? Am I willing to trust God with everything, every fiber of my being, every morsel of my life? Am I willing to trust Him? And then, are you willing to reach out and take it? When God does that great miracle, are you willing to reach out and take a hold? All He wants is us to take a hold. We're praying this morning. I know for church and and other churches like Gainesville Church and our church and struggling churches around the state of Florida and this country. We're also praying for those who are struggling with the question of settling into God. Have you settled the question? You come to the answer. Jesus is the answer. He said, "Come unto me, all who are weary." We close this morning. The altars are open. If you'd like to come and lay your burdens down at the altar, let's remember this morning. Nothing is too great for God. Our God is bigger than anything that we face. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, Lord, that you give us the answers. That you give us the opportunity, Lord, to lay our burdens down at your feet. But this morning, Lord, I pray that we as your people, not only willing to lay everything down, but when the answer comes, we're willing to reach out and take a hold. That we're willing when our problems are gone and the answer rises above to reach out and take it. Sometimes we have to get our feet wet in order to understand that you are there no matter what. Lord, I pray this morning that each one that is here this morning will they will receive a special blessing, Lord, in you this week. And that they will be able to share that blessing with others around them. And that others can see that God is still doing great miracles. Rising above the problems that we think are too great. Lord, we thank you for caring about the small things in our lives. We thank you for caring about us as individuals at all. We know we are an undeserving people. We know we are a people that Lord has sinned and come short of the glory of God. But you said you come into the world not to condemn the world, but that the world such as us could be saved. Lord, we pray right now that you would just go with us, bring us back again when the doors are open. May our hearts and our minds always be on you. And may we take you wherever we go and share you with others. And we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. What if I told you this morning that God was into heavy metal? You know, I always like to do things a little bit different, as y'all know. And if you will turn with me to 2 Kings this morning.